it's probably reasonable to say by the end of the decade, marketing won't be about campaigns anymore. It will have continuous AI-driven audience engagement. And AI will be constantly tweaking and running thousands of micro-optimized interactions in real time. It'll be, overall, we want to move people's attitudes and beliefs from here to here. And we're now going to set up AI to help us do that on a constant nudge basis, rather than a campaign by campaign basis.
So Paul, what's the biggest misconception about AI in marketing?
Yeah, what a cracking question, Warren. I have to admit, I thought about this and went round in circles because, you see, I think marketers are pretty good in their understanding of AI in marketing. I think they generally get that AI can be wrong. I think they get that it's a tool, it's not a replacement for people. And I think pretty much all marketers get that AI can have a transformational impact when used really well. So that's a tick in all of those boxes. Perhaps the biggest conception I sort of sense, I suppose, based on just listening to people, is that sometimes marketers can make the mistake of thinking that AI itself thinks like a human, because it kind of gives that impression, because it comes out with quite human answers. But of course, that's not how AI thinks. It processes data and it recognizes patterns using maths. So even the most advanced AI, things like ChatGPT, they haven't got any emotions, they don't have opinions, they don't have self-awareness. And I think that can lead to frustration when, if you use simple prompts, you will probably get pretty flat, banal, disappointing answers out of AI. So that's the misconception. And I would suggest that one shouldn't think of AI, or let's say ChatGPT, whichever large language model you choose, you shouldn't think of it like a junior marketeer. It's really an intern who's got access to the entire internet, but not a grain of common sense. So it won't know when it's giving a sensible or a daft answer unless you guide it. And so you don't need to be an AI expert, but you do need to be great at prompting and refining and fact-checking AI outputs. And it's that thing we talked about, the human AI sandwich, or another way of putting it, human first, human last.
But that's right. So what advice would you give to someone who has got misconceptions about AI marketing, and what advice would you give them on where to start?
Always have that thought that you've got to think about it first, and you've got to think about how you would approach the question that you're asking ChatGPT to answer. And then you kind of give it that thought process to follow through on. Then you let ChatGPT process at pace and refine things. And then you look at it and say, right, does it now make sense? Am I sufficiently confident with it that I can use it, or do I need to verify it? And how do I make it truly relevant to me, the situation, my company, my brand, whatever it might be? So a really weak way of using ChatGPT would be to say, write me a campaign brief. And there it is. Ta-da! You'd get one, but it would be pretty generic. But better, you'd say, here's my overall growth strategy, here's my brand's portfolio role, here's the audience I want to address, here's my competitors' positioning, etc., etc. Use all of that to draft a campaign brief. So it's exactly the process you would go through if you're doing it yourself, but you're instructing the GPT to do the legwork in terms of processing all that data. So that's what I would suggest is, next time you use AI, act like you're the editor, not a passive user of everything that ChatGPT gives to you, and see how you can make the output you get from ChatGPT better, partly by feeding it back to ChatGPT and saying, can you improve upon this, or can you refine this section a bit further, or can you add this aspect in to get to a better result?
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Paul. So what's the one AI tool that every marketer right now should be using?
One AI tool that marketers should be using right now. I think what I would say, first of all, is that it's not just about using integrated AI tools. So, for example, with Adobe, you've got Firefly. If you were to use Salesforce, you've got Einstein AI. Canva, you've got Magic Write. These are useful integrations of AI into existing applications. That's great. But the real power I think that we're talking about now is in generative AI tools. So things like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, DeepSeek, which we've all heard about in recent weeks, Gemini, etc. There's lots of large language models out there. ChatGPT is, I would say, the leader, but it's by no means the best in every situation. And there's lots of information available on the internet, on YouTube, as to the right large language model for any task. But I would think ChatGPT is a good place to start. If your company policies limit you to, say, Copilot, well, there's you can still work with that. It may not be quite as good in every case as ChatGPT, but it's still good. And I would be using them for things like drafting and refining complex emails. If you've got an email that's really important, big audience, big topic, then I would be using ChatGPT or an equivalent to critique it for me, to help me create the content. I would use it to develop early stage campaign ideas. I would use it to critique and refine existing strategies. And I'd use it to summarize long reports, lots of research documents, lots of meeting notes, those sorts of things. But my view is, you were saying earlier that you use ChatGPT or its equivalent daily. I think that's right. I think if you're not using AI daily as a marketeer, you are already behind, because the best marketeers, they're experimenting with it every day. I mean, you must find that in what you're doing.
It is something we're already using and looking at, and really looking at it from a people point of view. Really, how can it create more time for us as a team? That's kind of the primary way we're looking at the moment.
That's right. So I think it's that it's not there to provide the answer. It's there to help you work through a problem. But if you're using it daily, it's not you're saying, oh, I don't know what to do. It's you're saying, I've got a course of action or I've got a train of thought. I want to challenge it and make it better. And why wouldn't you use a super processing machine to help you do that? I think it's worth maybe for a couple of weeks people tracking how many times they use AI. It's less than 10 times a week. They're probably missing out. And they're not missing out on getting easy answers to difficult questions. They're missing out on getting better answers to difficult questions.
And what about personalised content?
Yes, personalised content is a bit of a hot topic. I've seen a lot of stuff around this on LinkedIn. I think it's fair to say that a lot of AI-generated content today is personalised but bland. So it says everything and nothing. It lacks emotional engagement. I see that in the copy. I can't put my finger on it, but you kind of know when you're reading the output from a generative AI tool. In the same way that you definitely know when you're looking at generative AI developed imagery. And I don't just mean because the pictures sometimes don't join up, but it's just they're just quite flat. So that's one issue, is that AI generated content can be personalized, but it can be bland. The other is it can be personalized but wrong. There's some brilliant. I was looking at some brilliant examples. A US supermarket who created an AI-powered meal planner which suggested Oreo vegetable stir fry. I mean, I don't know. That sounds great. Maybe. I certainly don't think bleach-infused rice surprise would be. I mean, it'd be a surprise. So they had lots of disclaimers saying that the planner might produce weird results, but that's another difficulty at the moment, at least, with AI personalized comment. So I think AI is not great at creativity, and I think the way forward is probably controlled testing. So I would be a big fan of perhaps setting up a personalized content generator. So, for example, it might respond to social media posts, but to make those responses in draft form or not actually send them. And then you would look at them and you'd say, well, if we turned this thing on, this is what would come out of it. What do we learn from that? Is it really better than our human-powered approach? Or is it something that we're not yet ready to let loose? So that helps. I think controlled testing is one way. The other approach to take on personalization, I think, is to say, well, actually, AI will free up creative time because we need to spend less time drafting copy or adapting assets. which means we can then spend more time making content relevant, distinctive, and impactful, which has the same impact as if it were personalized. So I'd go the indirect route. So rather than saying, let's get AI to produce amazing, instant, dynamic, personalized content, yeah, keep an eye on that. But right now, take advantage of AI enabling you to have more time spent on the real value add personalization piece, so that you get better personalization in a slightly indirect way now, rather than having to wait for the robots to get it right.
Okay, Paul, what's the biggest mistake marketers make with AI?
Biggest mistake marketers make when using AI? Well, I should first of all say, I think it's really encouraging how much marketers are embracing the use of AI. It's not easy. Everyone's trying really hard to incorporate it into what they do. Having said that, I think the biggest mistake perhaps is focusing on the use cases for AI. So can we use it here? Can we use it for this? Focusing on that instead of taking just a small step back and saying, let's approach AI as a capability. So it's a set of skills and attributes the organization, the team, the individual needs to gain in order to be able to create, ultimately, good use cases. So AI success isn't just about use cases. It also needs to have things like vision. So there needs to be a clear AI strategy that's aligned with what the business needs. Of course, there needs to be governance about how to use AI ethically, how to manage risk, how to take account of legal aspects. There needs to be the right tools and data. So you need to have your data in a properly organized place and format. You need to use the right AI models. There are many, many more than the ones we've already talked about. And you need to think about people as well. You need to think about upskilling people and redefining roles to work alongside AI. So you'll remember, Warren, that for years we've been talking about digital transformation. Well, equally, there is a AI transformation. AI is not a tool, it's a marketing transformation. And it's not just about how do we add AI to enable existing ways of working. It's about how do we fundamentally reconsider our ways of working to see how AI can make things or enable things to happen now that we couldn't conceive of doing only, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
That's right. There's some people within organisations that are kind of further along than others and have established more around AI than others. And what you're saying is that really you need that governance in play and the policies in play by the organisation to help really establish the use cases and to enable the use cases to take place.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there are situations where people do have to be brought under the umbrella of proper governance because, of course, organisations can't have risks of mistakes being made that can have very serious implications for the reputation of the company and the impact on consumers and others. But putting that sort of health factor to one side, there is room for people to work at different speeds, and you're always going to have some people who are more comfortable with new things than others. And the opportunity, I think, is to harness those people who are perhaps ahead of the game to say, look, you've got some brilliant learning here you can share with others. You've been through the learning curve. You can now help others do that. And that might help in that if they're held back from perhaps developing in certain areas they'd love to go into, but the governance won't let them, they can perhaps get satisfaction from sharing what they know with others and bringing others up to their current level of expertise.
Okay, Paul, you're going to have to get your crystal ball out for this one. What does the future look like for AI in marketing?
Yeah, where is it all heading to? I mean, if you ask 10 people, you'll probably get 10 answers. I think short term, so now, right now, I think AI in marketing is about productivity enhancements. Faster copywriting, faster concept development, easier content curation. I think next year after, we're going to go into advanced productivity and automation. So things like digital twins, simulating audience behaviors will become commonplace. There already are some out there. There will be dynamic content creation, and that will allow for real-time customization of advertising. And I think AI will be able to refine campaigns on the fly based on engagement data, real-time engagement data. So that's going to happen, I think, widespread in the next couple of years. Towards the end of the century, I think we'll get into AI-powered marketing automation. So hyper-personalized, one-to-one marketing at scale, automated campaigns, marketeers managing teams of people and AI agents. And then 2030 plus, who knows really, but when you get into artificial superintelligence, artificial general intelligence, then all bets are off. I don't think anybody apart from the futurologists, is that a name? I suppose we all have an opinion, but it's very hard to predict what's going to happen there. So I think it's probably reasonable to say by the end of the decade, marketing won't be about campaigns anymore. It will have continuous AI-driven audience engagement. And AI will be constantly tweaking and running thousands of micro-optimized interactions in real time. So instead of you saying, right, January we're going to run this, March we're going to run that, it'll be overall we want to move people's attitudes and beliefs from here to here, and we're now going to set up AI to help us do that on a constant nudge basis rather than a campaign by campaign basis.
Really? That really changes things, doesn't it? No more campaigns.
Yes, and the challenge is, are you going to get there first? Or are your competitors? Because whoever gets there first is going to obviously have much greater efficacy of their marketing activity than anybody else.
So I guess if everyone's doing this and everyone's access to these AI tools, does that mean cut through is therefore a bit harder?
But it is. No, it is, because what's happened is that the bar has been raised, because everybody, broadly speaking now, can do okay. But to get the impact, you've got to go above that. And so, yes, the bar has been raised. It will become more difficult, I think, to get cut through. And it will depend on, one of the key things will be the skills of the people in the organisation to leverage AI and generative AI to help them do that, which is why, early point, why it has to be considered as a transformational capability and not just a tool to make the way things work today a bit better.
Fascinating thoughts, Paul. Really great to chat to you about AI and everything around it, and really great to get your guidance on kind of what it looks like for marketers out there and how they can get the right advice on it.
Yeah, no, thank you, Warren. And I think my sense is that anybody who thinks they know the answers is fooling themselves. You can have a best view based on the information available, but you've got to keep current. You've got to have a lot of sources giving indications of where the technology and the usage and the thinking is going, and be prepared to change one's position quite rapidly. So if you were to ask me these questions in 6 months' time, it's likely I'd give different answers. Not to say these are wrong answers now, but the world probably will have changed because it is changing so rapidly.
Paul, thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you. Is it a high five?
That is a high five right back at you. That is going to be a regular sign off from now on. Thank you, Paul.